In the stairwell of a public hospital in central Ukraine, Serhiy draws back on a cigarette. The 36-year-old soldier picked up the habit during the war. But after what he's endured these past few weeks, it's the only thing that calms him down. Last month, he and his unit were in Kyiv, on the outskirts of Bakhmut, trying to hold trenches. After a few days, their dugout was shelled by Russian mortars. And Serhiy was hit.
I was wounded in both legs. I immediately touched them to check they were still there.
But there were far worse injuries amongst the other soldiers, broken legs and jaws. When the evacuation team arrived under heavy shelling, Serhiy insisted they take the others first. He would wait for the next team. Another unit arrived but were pinned down because of constant Russian bombardment, so supplies were sent in by drone.
Our commander dropped snacks, painkillers, water from drones, even cigarettes and a lighter. We wanted to smoke.
As another soldier scrambled out to collect the supplies, water had become an issue, as almost every bottle burst on impact. But their problems were about to get a lot worse when an enemy drone dropped a grenade into their small dugout, landing on the soldier next to Serhiy.
I was wounded again, but he was in really bad shape. Two people from his brigade took him away, and I realized I was alone.
For the next 3 days, Serhiy hid in his dugout alone, surrounded by the enemy, who he could hear just meters away. Whispering on the radio, he gave his commander their coordinates, basically calling in artillery on his very own position. He says multiple evacuation teams had tried to reach him over those 2 weeks, but some of those soldiers were killed. In the end, his commander said the only way out was to pray and crawl, which he finally did. With a radio in one hand and his unit's drone overhead, he crawled back to safety, dragging his legs that were now beginning to rot.
Only one way to escape, and I even didn't hope that I survive.
As Serhiy recovers in this hospital in central Ukraine, eager to go home, he maintains his story is nothing special, and that it's the soldiers now fighting on the battlefield that deserve the world's attention.
What I have seen cannot be expressed in words. Every guy in this world has gone through something like this. Our guys are paying a very high price.
A price Ukrainian soldiers are continuing to pay as this war painfully grinds towards its second year. Anna Koren, CNN, Central Ukraine.
It looks like little more than a cluster of TV aerials. And yet this Ukrainian drone has just destroyed a critical piece of Russia's electronic arsenal. The commander who operated the drone says he wanted his video to go viral.
On this video, other reconnaissance units will be able to see how such antenna looks like in detail and in the future identify them on the battlefield.
Pavlo Petrichenko is stationed on the most active part of Ukraine's eastern front, his unit helping defend the town of Avdiivka from a Russian onslaught.
Why is it so important to destroy these electronic warfare systems in particular?
I am grateful to our partners, to NATO, to the whole civilized world who give us these weapons. All these weapons are highly accurate. They are guided by satellite systems. Russia tries to counter these weapons with electronic warfare systems.
For Russia, electronic warfare, an invisible battleground where electromagnetic waves are used to jam or even alter enemy GPS signals, as well as disrupting radio waves, radar, and even cell signals, has provided an unexpected advantage over Ukraine's more sophisticated weapons. US-provided guided missiles, even some essential HIMARS rocket launchers have been compromised. And drones, the most frequent victims. This, published by a pro-Kremlin news outlet, purportedly shows the moment Russian jammers struck.
So GPS jamming is basically brute force power. So think of it if your stereo's on at home and you've got low music playing and your neighbor is blasting their music next door and you can hear it and it overpowers your stereo.
Ukraine's Minister of Digital Transformation, who has spearheaded a 100-fold increase in drone production this year, says electronic warfare is now a top priority.
The new vision for the development of electronic warfare includes protecting every piece of equipment, every trench, every person, comprehensive protection of the entire battlefield and the rear using electronic warfare.
Ukraine is playing catch-up here. The head of the country's armed forces admitting in a recent essay Russia has, quote, significant electronic warfare superiority.
I think what's been interesting is to see these jamming systems being co-located with Russian forces. I think it's really giving insight into how Russia is integrating them into their military plans and their force movements.
And Russia's not trying to hide this. The official Defense Ministry TV channel showing off jamming equipment on tanks aimed to prevent enemy drones getting too close. And even on state media, an armoured train said to be kitted out with electronic warfare defences.
Do you think that electronic warfare is one of the things that could potentially turn the tide in this conflict?
One tool is not enough to achieve a breakthrough. It needs to be a combination of certain actions. We're never going to have as much manpower as Russia, but technology can change that. We need to continue scaling it up.
Sebastian, CNN, London.
In the early hours of Saturday morning, loud explosions could be heard all over Kyiv, as the capital's air defense systems worked in overdrive. Just after 2:30 a.m., an unprecedented swarm of drones began to attack Kyiv from multiple directions, terrorizing its more than 3 million residents. 75 Shahid drones were launched by Russia. Authorities say 74 were shot down. Debris from one of the downed drones hit this kindergarten in the city's suburbs. Metres away, hundreds of residential apartments. Shattered windows, a sign of how close the war had come. Too close for Evgenia and her 2 young daughters.
We heard the sirens and ran into the hallway and were waiting for this to pass, like always. But then we had a huge explosion. We thought our house was going to be destroyed.
The residents here in Kyiv are used to hearing the air raid sirens and the explosions of the air defense systems working overtime, but nothing quite like this. For more than 6 hours, there was a barrage of Shahed drones targeting the capital. And this, behind me, is the result of one of those drones shot down. Inside the kindergarten, Olga, one of the teachers, is distraught. All my life I've worked here. Look at the destruction, she cries. Her colleague says, everything is okay. We will clean this up. Don't worry. Thank God everyone is alive. 5-year-old Yaroslava looks through the fence at a playground she would frequent every day.
That's my kindergarten. I had music and dancing classes in this building. I feel sad the drone came and destroyed my school.
Her mother, Natalia, in tears, thinking this was supposed to be a safe place for her only child.
It's very painful to see this.
Residents in Kyiv and across the country have been expecting this. Russia has spent months stockpiling weapons specifically aimed at targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure as the temperatures plunge. And with winter now here, these people know this is just the beginning.
We've got used to this, but I don't want to get used to it.
Anna Koren, CNN, Kyiv.
Ukraine's capital is reeling from an unprecedented wave of Russian drone attacks. Officials say 75 Russian drones went after targets across the country Saturday morning, which is a new record. A majority of them were reportedly shot down, but the attack still caused multiple fires and left damage in Kyiv. Anna Koren joins us now from the streets of the capital with more. So, Anna, explain where exactly you are and what we're seeing behind you.
Kim, we are in the city, and this behind me is a kindergarten. The cleanup is well underway, but a few hours ago, the remnants of a drone shot down fell on this kindergarten, and you can see the extent of the debris. It's in the trees all over the schoolyard, and over here, Kim, just metres away are hundreds and hundreds of residential apartment buildings, many of the windows smashed out. You can see residents cleaning up. They've been doing that, since we arrived, trying to get life back to normal. But you say this is an unprecedented number of drones that have targeted the capital. 75 were launched, 74 were shot down. That number just released from authorities. But they shoot these drones down over the city. They have to do that. This is what their air defense systems do. And then the debris falls. And some of that debris has fallen on this kindergarten. We spoke to one of the women living in these apartments. She said she heard the sirens. She ran into the hallway with her two daughters. They lay down there. They then heard the loud explosions of the air defense systems. This is something that happens regularly, here in Kyiv. Residents are used to this. And then there was this huge, almighty explosion. She thought that her house was going to collapse. So this is having the desired impact, Kim, which is terrorising the population here of the capital. I should also mention that these attacks were coming from multiple angles, so the air defence systems were working, overtime. We know that Russia has been stockpiling drones, missiles, all specifically aimed for winter, and we are in winter. It is now freezing temperatures across Ukraine and here in the capital, and obviously Russia wants to target the energy infrastructure like they did last year. Kim. On the outskirts of Kyiv, a soldier puts on a pair of goggles.
Welcome to OpenTX.
She's part of a unit testing the latest batch of drones that have just arrived. Some work, some don't. But this is the place to find out before they're delivered to Ukrainian troops on the eastern and southern fronts. Some of these drones are from civilians, produced in homes on kitchen tables. They can be used for reconnaissance or assault missions. Drones have become a critical component of this war and are absolutely essential to every single Ukrainian unit on the front line. And while civilians are working with private companies and the military to produce as many drones as possible, these soldiers say there are not nearly enough. As Russia's full-scale invasion approaches a second year, there is now a critical shortage of drones. China's decision to shut down exports of parts, citing national security concerns, is part of the problem. However, the biggest issue is Russian electronic warfare. A Ukrainian official tells CNN the military uses roughly 30 to 40,000 drones per month. They're cheap and expendable, but soldiers on the ground say they need at least 10 times more. A grassroots army of civilians are heeding the call, including Vera and Alexander, encouraging others to do the same. Their operation has taken over their one-bedroom apartment. He makes drone parts with his 3D printer, while she creates camouflage dressings for soldiers' helmets. Their work acknowledged by grateful troops in Bakhmut, who sent them Ukraine's coat of arms made of bullets.
Instead of getting married and having a wedding, we spent that money to start making drones. Now we are happy without gold rings, but with the drones.
Companies like Victory Drones are training up civilians online to help build these little birds, to then distribute to the military.
If you attach the payload to the bottom, if you attach the battery on top, you have a perfect shell, which is a guided missile.
Volunteer and soldier Gennady says to compete with Russia's industrial output, Ukraine must innovate or there will be no future. He's already lost his best friend, seen here in this video singing lullabies to their children. He knows too well the painful price of this war.
When I'm saying innovate or die, I see eyes of people from my unit. I lost already. And obviously we have to win this war because otherwise their sacrifice was fruitless.
Even the next generation is getting involved. The military has begun training school kids, some as young as first graders.
My name is Sofia. I'm 6 years old. I like flying drones and protecting the country.
And there are even plans to make this part of the nation's education system. Anna Koren, CNN, Kyiv.
Russia says it destroyed at least 24 Ukrainian drones that were headed for Moscow and other cities in the past day. Dozens of other drones were also taken out over Ukrainian areas that are under Russian control. This all happened a day after Russia launched its largest drone attack against Kyiv since the start of the war, according to local officials. A Ukrainian energy company says power has been restored to everyone in the capital after those attacks left people in the dark. And CNN's Anna Koren joins us now live from Kyiv. Good to see you, Anna. So what is the latest on those drone attacks in the capital?
Well, Rosemary, as you're saying, this was the largest attack of drones launched by Russia since its invasion, full-scale invasion on Ukraine in February of last year. 75 Shahed drones were targeted at the capital. 74 were shot down, but it wasn't without its drama. Early in the morning, just after 2:30 a.m., the air raid sirens went off. Then the air defence systems were working, these loud explosions in the air. We could even hear the sound of these drones, and they were coming from multiple directions as well, Rosemary. Now, the debris from those drones that were shot down, they fell on residential buildings, including a kindergarten, which we went out to and saw the destruction. And just metres away, Rosemary, were hundreds of apartments in these residential buildings. You know, the people, they were looking at what had taken place. They were, you know, hiding in their hallways. They said they were used to this. They were waiting for it to pass, and then there was this almighty explosion. They thought their homes were going to be destroyed. This is about terrorising a population. There is no doubt about it. But we also know that Russia has been stockpiling its weapons, stockpiling its drones and missiles with the aim of targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure, just like they did last winter. Temperatures here have plunged. It's not officially winter yet, but it's snowing outside. It is freezing. So that is Russia's aim, and Ukraine knows it.
And Anna, what all is President Zelensky saying about his country's need for weapons, particularly air defence systems?
Well, look, the air defence systems, you know, on the weekend, particularly in the capital, were in overdrive, but they worked. Obviously, 75 of those 74 drones were shot down. It's not like that in other areas, other regions. And we heard from President Zelensky over the weekend at this grain initiative summit where he said the real problem is in the border regions. He mentions Zaporizhia, Kherson, Dnipro, Sumy, Chernihiv, and the Donetsk region. He said these are the areas difficult to protect, bordering Russia as well as Belarus. Let's now have a listen to what President Zelensky had to say.
There is a certain number of air defense systems with certain names. We are asking for them. We've already got a positive answer when those systems will start to guard that region, because there, both the corridor and the people are important.
Rosemary, the fact of the matter is, you know, Ukraine needs air defense systems, it needs weapons, it needs ammunitions, it needs drones, it needs absolutely everything to fight this war against Russia. And there is a growing consensus in this country, particularly among the analysts that we are speaking to, that the West is giving Ukraine enough weaponry to stay in the fight, but not to win the war. And then we speak to the soldiers who are down on the front line fighting in these conditions, saying, why don't we have enough? We need more drones. We need more ammunition. We don't have enough to make the inroads, gain that momentum, to gain ground against Russia. This is now, without doubt, a war of attrition. And we heard from the Commander-in-Chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, General Zaluzhny, recently. He wrote a 9-page essay where he said Ukraine needs advanced technological weapons to really make inroads here. He also talks about the delays in the weapons from the West. You know, the F-16s that have been promised from the United States, they're not going to be delivered until late spring of next year. So how is Ukraine supposed to make the gains that they need to win this war? Many people, you know, here are growing more and more perplexed. So really, Rosemary, you know, Ukraine needs all of this weaponry, and they need it now.
Indeed. Anna Corin joining us live from Kyiv with that report. Appreciate it and take care.